Hello, everyone. Welcome to our next episode of Forged Sober Chicks. And as always, I'm joined by Dana and Heather. And today we have a fabulous guest that I'm very excited for. This is Renee. And Renee is a 30 plus year trial attorney and mediator who could not figure out how to succeed at life, how to succeed at living a life worth living. Although her career was and still is very fulfilling, she was a single mother raising a daughter, and her life looked successful by all accounts. Yet she could not make sense of all that was happening wrong in her life. Seeking a solution to fix herself, she went to a therapist. It was her therapist who suggested that she just go to one AA meeting, and that was over 16 years ago. So I am so excited to hear your story because just the brief conversation that you and I had over the phone, you had some, I mean, even in our, I don't even know if it was a 10 or 15-minute conversation, just the things that you said not only resonated with me, but it's opening this whole new, in my mind, area of maybe a little bit more affluent and those issues that come with kind of the money and the high ranking careers. Sorry, that's my dog. But that's a whole new realm that we haven't really went over and kind of explored. So I'm super excited to hear what you have to say.
Well, thank you. And good morning, everybody. We're not going to go high net worth and big giant dollars today. I'll leave that to the clients who I work for. But, my jumping off point was really that therapist. And little did I know she had, over 30 years of sobriety. And she saw something in me and how I just couldn't figure things out. I didn't fit. Nothing was working. Sure, I was a very successful partner in a downtown Los Angeles law firm. Absolutely. But that didn't mean that it was working. I had, I drove a nice car, lived in a nice house, and those are all nice things, but I couldn't figure me out. And so at the time, I was directed to this therapist because I was dating a married man. All right. That's the first, big problem. I thought, oh, he's fabulous. He's wonderful. But boy, that was a problem in and of itself. And that's not even why I went to go see her. But I just knew I didn't fit. So I come from a family of 4 children, mom and dad, and, a pretty decent upbringing. We lived in a depressed area for sure in Southern California, but that was okay. But what happened when I was young is I was 8 years old. One of my brothers was killed as he was crossing in a crosswalk, and he was hit by an underage drunk driver. And you would think that that would send enough of a message to me to not drink, to not experiment with drugs, to not do those things. And yet it was not enough of a message. Sure, it hurt the family pretty hard. And we still suffer from that. But I think it is the thing that probably caused me to go on to become an attorney, to right that wrong, so to speak, in the grand universe. But and I'm grateful for that. But I have to say that I think all of us as working women, we know there are extreme pressures put on us, and we want to perform. I personally wanted to overperform. I wanted to do the best, the most, know the most people, do the most cases, be at the office all the time. And yet, what was I really doing? What was I really running from? Because that's what I was doing, right? I was running from a divorce. I was running from not meeting my obligations. I was running from, you can list them all, and I was running from it because I could go hide at the office and overwork. And that meant hide, and I don't like admitting this, but it was hiding from being a mother, hiding from being the best mother I could be. My daughter was just barely hitting her teens at the time I came in, and or she was just not quite teen. And boy, I could see that relationship really kind of hitting its, oh, it was going to spiral down, because mothers and daughters, we have a way of not communicating, of wanting our way, and of whatever the things were. I recall that I caught her in a pretty big lie pretty early on, and I made her. This is so silly. So she's probably about 12 or 13. And I caught her in a pretty big lie. She said she was going to her dad's house when in fact she slipped out. She went with some friends to go do whatever, and I caught it. And it was not until the day was done I busted her. And I was just so proud that I busted her, right? And so I made her write up a contract of what her punishment was going to be. Seriously. And she had to commit to, 3 significant forms of punishment. And it was going to be, like clean the house once a week for a month, and come to work with me for a solid week, and actually work at the office for no pay, stuff like this. And, I look back on that, and, what did that really accomplish? That kind of stuff serves to fracture the relationship, not really repair it or get to the root of the problem. And, that's what was a part of my living an unmanageable life, and what was really unmanageable at the beginning. I didn't fit. I was one of the middle kids. And then the middle brother is the one who got killed. So I was kind of left, I felt, without, an ally in the group of kids. And then the young one and the older one, they really kind of formed a close bond. And I never fit. I was the only one in my entire family, aside from now my daughter and my son-in-law, who went to college. Nobody knew what college was in my family. No one knew what college was where I grew up. And yet I knew I wanted to go to college. And I knew I was going to get to law school some way, somehow. And so, of course, what was that met with as I was growing up? It was met with, well, we're not paying for your college. You'll have to figure that out on your own. And, as a teen, that's quite a blow. How am I going to find that money? I don't even know how to get to college. I didn't even know there were college entrance exams. I applied to one college back in the day, which if any of you have children, you know that they don't apply to one college anymore. They apply to 10, a minimum, practically. So I was the one who didn't fit, and I didn't know why I didn't fit. And I thought differently, and I knew I was a different thinker. And that first that first drink, aside from a sip of beer out of my dad's beer, or sneaking a sip of wine at the family dinner table, my longtime girlfriend, and I'm still friends with her. We are so close. We just went out to dinner last week. We've known each other for at least 50 years. She had me over. We got one of the local boys in the neighborhood to go buy us a bottle of, like Boone's Farm, Annie Green Springs. Yes. And I'm definitely dating myself here, but so we get the bottle of the Boone's Farm, and we go into her parents were just well-to-do for sure. And we go into her bedroom that has a walk-in closet, right? It's got all her stuff and whatever. We go in the closet and we take the bottle out of the bag, and we drink that bottle. Like no one's going to be able to tell. And that's the funny thing about the things I was doing. I thought I could get away with this. No one will be able to tell, and it was very interesting. And that kind of started the career of, lying, of hiding, of cheating, of how can I get away with, how can I manufacture? And I'm embarrassed to admit those things, and yet they're a part of who I was becoming. And that continued on into adulthood, and as I became a high schooler, I'm sorry, I didn't even think I mentioned my age. That was definitely in junior high that we did that. And as I became a high schooler, it was, how to lie to my parents, how to get out of the house, how to whatever, how can I get the car? How can I get the boyfriend? How can I get, you know, those are, I'm not proud of those things. And yet I don't regret them either because I couldn't be sitting here today. Um, and so I went on to college and oh my gosh, the drinking continued for sure. Um, I remember going out to this big party one time and I was dating, someone on the tennis team. And he picks me up in the sports car, and that all sounds fabulous and wonderful. And we go to this party, and what do? It's not enough to just go to a party for me. I had to what everybody calls pre-gaming. I had to pre-game, right? And to stop off at Del Taco and get whatever slushy thing and just pour tons of slow gin in it. Whew. So of course, by the time he picks me up, by the time we get to the party, what am I doing? I'm throwing up in his beautiful sports car. Quite a way to make an impression on people. And I proceeded into the party and drank more so that I could go in and then he could walk me out and I could throw up some more. Needless to say, I never saw that person again. I can't say that I remember his name, but again, not proud moments, and yet had to go through that. I had to go through that. And all the while, I'm proud of myself because I'm all that, not really, but for putting myself through college. And look at me, I'm the successful one. Look at me, I've got the degree and I'm going to law school, and that's, yeah, that's a big accomplishment, but so what? It's a mess in the meantime. And I can't figure out why it's not going smoother for me because I'm continuing to hide behind the drink. I can fake it. I can make it. I can whatever, because that's what I really wanted. I went after what I wanted, not what the universe provided, right? I was going to set the goals and I was going to exceed them every last time. So yeah, got out of college, met my husband and my ex-husband and my daughter's father. And again, that had all the bells and whistles. It had the sports car, it had the house, and I was going to go to law school. And so I went to law school. And all the while working very, very hard, and he's doing what he's doing, right? He's in, I can't even tell you what type of job he had because I don't truly know. And none of this is his fault. I certainly have a part in all of it. I'm not here to blame anybody today. And really quite blessed by the fact that he is her father and has remained in her life this whole time. But needless to say, I was not paying attention. I was busy with, what kind of fabulous suit can I buy for my first court appearance? And, what kind of house am I going to live in? And how can I get and how can I have? Right? All the while drinking my wine, my champagne in that beautiful crystal goblet, that beautiful, and I was just all that in my mind, of course. I'm so glad I've changed. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff anymore. But that's what I was doing, right? Dancing on the head of that little pin, just trying for sheer perfection in life. And how do I get to it? So I practice law, I'm working, and we'll fast forward a little bit, and I'm not really paying attention to what's going on at home. And I don't realize that both me and my ex-husband were spiraling into financial ruin. It was the 80s, for goodness sakes. What weren't we doing? We were having fun. We were going out. We were, at the club doing God knows what. More than drinking, probably. Yes, I know for a fact we were more than drinking at those clubs. That was fun though, right? We were having fun and driving home. Yep, after we had that much to drink, and I didn't get it yet. And that's hard to think back and remember. That's really hard because that's a lot of risk. And I didn't think I hurt anybody, but boy, I put him at risk, I put myself at risk, and I put a lot of others at risk, those innocent drivers on the road. Anyway, we're spiraling to financial ruin. And of course, that's all his fault. I have nothing to do with that. I was bringing home a paycheck. And, I remember going to lunch with, fellow attorneys, and I'd stop off at the ATM in the days when, getting $20 out of the ATM was a lot of money. And, sometimes I'd go to the ATM and there'd be no dollars in the account. And sometimes there'd be, $100,000 in the account. And I go, we're doing fine. But why is there no money? I couldn't understand it, but he says we're fine, so we're fine. That's a real problem, right? Anyway, the financial ruin thing, yeah. It was not my fault. That was all his fault. Needless to say, I got here, close to 17 years ago. So my sobriety date is August 15, 2007. And I want to say something important. I have a sponsor who has a sponsor who has a sponsor, and so on and so forth. And I'm a member of a very tight-knit community that welcomes people, other women, into it. We don't tight-knit the community and close it off. We tight-knit the community and keep it open. And it's there for the asking. And that's super important, because I did not appreciate that when I first got here. Anyway, so I have this beautiful baby girl, and I say, okay, that's it. I'm pregnant. I'm having a child. I will stop using. I will stop drinking. And that, I can't drink while the baby's inside me. I'm carrying her. I mean, that would be horrible. I couldn't hold to it. I just had to have the celebratory, beautiful glass of champagne, didn't I? And I had to have the occasional glass of wine just to, kind of take the edge off of things, because it's hard to think about becoming a mother, right? And excuse after excuse after excuse. And well, once she was born, okay, I could try some other things again, because at least she's not, I'm not carrying her. We'll set aside the fact that I was breastfeeding, right? And I went back to work because I needed to go to work, because we couldn't financially hold it together. We were losing the house, we were losing the cars, everything. And I ended up leaving. She wasn't but a year old, maybe a little better than a year old, 12, 13, 14 months old. And I left because everything had fallen apart, and it wasn't my fault. I was the victim. And that's another thing, as I started working with my sponsor in this program, she said I was speaking in a very unique language called victimese. I was the victim constantly. It was somebody else's fault. I never had a part in it. I couldn't have, I didn't cause the financial ruin. I didn't cause the breakup of a marriage because I was dating a married man. I wasn't married. That's all I had to be concerned about, right? I didn't break this new child's family. Yes, I did, as a matter of fact, because I wanted financial security. I wanted fill in the blanks. I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but so I left. And this poor kid, right? She's in childcare. She's with her mother part of the time. She's with her father. She's basically, bopping around through 3 households. And I'm not making it any easier on her, because now I'm getting into really drinking on a daily basis. And that's a tough one. I get home at night, and I get up early in the morning, and I've got to get her to school, and I've got to deal with the caregiver, and I've got to get to work, and I've got to come home and pick her up from school, and I've gotta. And how do I solve it at night? I don't need a fancy crystal goblet anymore. I need the bottle of wine. And I'm not a very big person, not a big stature. And this stature cannot handle a bottle of wine every day. And again, I'm embarrassed to admit this, because I am a licensed to practice law. And I think back on the disservice in showing up with a hangover to court, right? Not proud of these moments at all. Yes, I survived. Yes, I achieved things. Yes, I did serve my clients, but not in the best Renee way I could. And today I'm happy to say for the past 16 years, I have shown up the best way I could. And hopefully making living amends to those clients. Because I mean, I've served major clients in my career and I continue to, from anything from insurance companies to individuals to major corporations. I work with multi-billion-dollar corporations today, and that's no small task. And I do show up for them. So anyway, it was about what I couldn't have and what I didn't get and how come it isn't working. So this fabulous therapist got me to kind of edge into one of those rooms. And I made the phone call to the local AA office and I said, I need to go to a meeting and is there one tonight? And the person was kind enough to direct me to a meeting. And it happened to be a meeting where someone was speaking. And I mean, I just barely slid in on the fringe. And by the way, I think it's important to mention that I stopped drinking for 2 years before I went to that first meeting. And I don't count that as a part of my sobriety. It's just something I don't count because I was out there on the edge. Even though I wasn't drinking, the behavior was just as bad, at the office, with my daughter, with others, with friends, with family. I was trying to cover it all up, even though I wasn't drinking, again, thinking I was all that, right? I'm not drinking. This is going to fix it. But I kind of made a deal with the devil, so to speak, going to that first meeting. I said, all right, I'm going to go to this. And this is going to be the last thing I try because I haven't had a drink in 2 years. This is the last thing I try. And if this proves to be something, I'll try to listen, but guaranteed, I am not those people. I am not those people who I'm walking in to that room to be a part of. I'm just not them. I'm not falling down drunk. Look, I could stop drinking on my own. Isn't that awesome? I'm still working. I still have a house. I still have a car. Wow, this magical magnifying mind of mine. It's just fabulous. So I sat in on the edge. I went in the back. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to make eye contact. Look at these losers. I'm not this, whatever. And there was an attorney speaking at that meeting. I mean, how does this stuff happen? How does this stuff happen? This attorney, a very successful attorney, had his own practice, and he was celebrating his 18th anniversary. And I don't even remember what he said. I just thought, oh my God, attorneys go here too? And, he had a suit and tie on. And that's not what we wear in these rooms necessarily. Some people do show up like that because they're coming from work. And I heard something that night and I felt at home. I found a home, which was just amazing. And I knew that was it. And in the practice of developing clients and what have you, I always had a business card at the ready, right? And excuse me, I'm crying a little bit because it's emotional. I pulled out my business card out of my purse, crossed off the front information, which said, name, firm, and all the rest, turned it over. I wrote the date, August 15, 2007 on it. And I just wrote down, I'm an alcoholic. This is it. And I still have that business card today. It's something I keep close to my desk at home. Because it's true. It's true. The behaviors, the whatevers. So that's what it was like. It was a mess. I had no idea my life was unmanageable. I thought I was managing everything. I had no idea I was doing insane things. After all, he loved me, didn't he? Oh, the thoughts. In any event, I got with a sponsor really quickly and she had what I wanted, which was, a life. She had a home that was calm. It was drama free. I lived in the drama 24/7. If it wasn't happening, I was creating it. And don't you know, I had to tell all my girlfriends, I had to tell all my coworkers, I had to tell all my partners what the drama of the day was. How could this have happened to me? Right? Be it happening in court and another attorney who opposed me, anything, something in my life. That's what was happening. And I got here and found a home with a beautiful sponsor, and she's still my sponsor today. I'm so lucky. She's moved out of state. I just saw her yesterday. We talk every 1 or 2 weeks for sure. We check in because we don't have to live those old lives anymore. It is not easy to work this program, and it takes a great deal of courage to walk into one of those rooms and not know a soul and just say, you know what, this is it. And wow, so I got busy working the steps, right? And going to meetings. And the first 5 years were absolute hell on me. Hell. It was a self-imposed hell. I felt like I didn't get it. I felt like I wasn't right for this. I felt like once again, I didn't fit. And all I was doing was really telling myself those old stories, making excuses once again, once again, once again. But, sticking close to a sponsor who was honest with me, who, exposed some of those things. I'd tell her about, whatever I was doing. I go, well, it was just a little fib. And, I didn't really want to show up in court that day. So I got someone else to show up for me, and I said I was sick. And she goes, Renee, that's a lie. That is a lie. A lie is a lie. You can't sugarcoat it any other way. Let's get real. Let's get honest. If you were really sick, then great. So, I felt like I got a hold of that concept. Wow. Okay, I could do that. And then we got down to why I was doing what I was doing and looking at my motives for doing things, right? I didn't get that. And how did I miss out on such a giant chunk of life to not know that I can fib a little? Why not? No, that's not right. Not to live the life I want to live, right? Not to be genuine to myself, to who I really want to become. And that's the thing. Unless I would have worked these steps, I don't think I could be my authentic self today and value, love, peace, forgiveness, and all being an authentic human being. I don't have to like everything. I don't have to necessarily accept the fact that some, bad news came my way, but I get to accept it. And I get to give it some manner of dignity and grace, right? And that's what this program has taught me. But it hasn't been easy, and it still isn't easy. I just went through a pretty big awakening about a year ago, where I was engaged, and that I had to leave. It wasn't right, and it wasn't going to be right. But I was, again, in my old habits of, well, look, I'm sober. Everything's going to be good. I'm going to meetings. Everything's going to be good. I have a sponsor. Everything's going to be good. But what I forgot was being genuine to myself, and I was compromising myself. And I don't need to do that. And I was also living the life the other person wanted me to live. I was being a people pleaser. And I didn't realize I was a people pleaser. Don't you know, I'm a high-powered attorney. Oh, I forgot. I've been pleasing clients for, 35 years now. So fast forward to now, and, I didn't have to crumble over that loss of relationship. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it was a big loss. But I didn't have to crumble, and I could continue to show up for those clients. I could continue to show up for my family. I could continue to show up for me, and that's a big accomplishment. Also in the last year, so that was a big loss. Also in the last year, I had a major surgery. That was a big loss for me. And I had to be brave enough to tell the office, and this is very much not like me. I had to tell the office I was going to have to be gone from work for 2 months. That's hard. I don't know what to do with me for 2 months not working, right? But guess what? I figured it out. And I did it with dignity and grace. And this community came and surrounded me while I was home for 2 months. People would stop by, people would text, people would call, people would just show up. They'd drive me to a meeting because I wasn't able to drive at that time. It was amazing. You know, my daughter, who she's awesome. Um, she came and stayed with me for 2 weeks because I couldn't drive and I couldn't really, climb the stairs. And that's the relationship I have today, you know? And I wasn't gonna have that for sure. I was throwing all that away when I drove her drunk in the car, when she was just little in a car seat. But today I don't have to do that. So, today is beautiful. Now I am happy and I live at ease. That doesn't mean it's simple. It just means I get to live life on life's terms. And I didn't even know what the heck that meant when I got here. But I've been learning. And I have deep gratitude for people like you who bring us together. I would have never known you were it not for this. And that is precious. So I think that kind of gets us up to today. Oh, I want to mention one thing. I have a fabulous son-in-law too. I always wanted a boy, so now I have a boy and a girl.
Oh my goodness.
Ah,
I feel like I am looking into a mirror. Your story. First, I want to say thank you for your incredible vulnerability. I have not admitted in public that I drank during my pregnancy. I will admit that with you too. I didn't drink compulsively. I did have a glass of wine here or a glass of wine there. But as we know, a glass of wine hijacks your liver that does thousands of activities in your body. So I'm standing with you. I've never admitted that out loud. I did not show up as the best therapist because I was working with people in domestic violence and I was really triggered and I numbed so I could show up for that job. And I did great work. I did great. I helped those kids. But what would it have looked like if my light was fully shining? That's kind of like the part that, but I want to just say, for me, my story is so very parallel. But my story, the root in the beginning is undiagnosed ADHD plus trauma. And so my undiagnosed ADHD and the way that my brain works manifested and helped me cope with my trauma. And what did that look like? High flying, perfectionist, achiever. I was a orphan by 16. College, graduate school, not going to stop. President of every organization. I literally go places. My husband says, please do not take over this organization. You don't need to run it. And I'm like, sure. you know, like, but the core of that is I am not good enough. I am not lovable. And so I must do more, better, faster, consistently. Like I have done the craziest stuff. None of it feels like anything because that's not what it was about. It was about one surviving. You talk about these things that you're embarrassed with, and I see a spicy sister that was surviving because your family said, we're not going to support you emotionally, financially, spiritually. You're on your own. You want to be different? I was different. I was very different because my brain worked differently. I just didn't know that that's why I was different. Nobody else has these conversations with themselves in a head. Nobody has this active imagination. Nobody else is running around on their roofs. Talk about risk taking. I was running around my roofs when I was like 13 and 14, third story in Toronto. So that's what the lens that I'm looking at and what that has offered me and kind of what you're talking about, what the 12 step has offered you. And I came into 12 step 2 and And what I hear is that that structure helps you to heal. That structure helps you to find recovery in a way that's really, really valuable. And I needed that structure initially. And now I have different structure and more structure and extra structure. And that's helped me. And I've learned that I'm just going to approach things with my neurospicy brain. I am going to stop making myself feel bad. I am going to create art in a different way. I'm going to have meetings in a different way. I'm going to be like, look, I'm going to overwhelm you with all my ideas. 3 of them might happen. These 2 have had conversations, private conversations, because I freak them out because I'm like, hey, this is what we're going to do. So we're going to start a nonprofit. We're going to start our business. We're going to have a 7-scale business. We're going to be doing and we will do all of that. But the way I talk about it is it's going to happen tomorrow, which makes them scared. But I've learned to manage it. I'm like, look, I'm putting this out there. We've now recorded it. We're putting that energy out there. And then we're going to like take the steps because I understand the structure. Nobody taught me the structure for living. You know,
Yes,
the
that's
structure
it.
for living.
Structure
Yeah.
for a living. Ah,
Yeah. So I love and resonate with all of those things because my parents didn't have the tools to give me those structures, you know, and oh my God, my children. That's why I got recovery. That's why I work every day on my recovery, that I get to hold space for these 2 incredible human beings in a way that I didn't when I first was a young mom. And I deeply regretted that. And guess what I get? I get another chance. I get another chance to parent in a way with the structure, with my abilities, with all of those things. So I'm going to stop talking because this is not about me. This is about you. So, but I just really jived with all of these things that you were saying. And I think there's so many of us out there. And that's why I think Meredith is like, it's not about the money. It's about that mental picture of alcoholic equals homeless person, unhoused person. And high flying, super successful woman does not equal that. And we have to say, yes, it does.
yes, on the inside it does. You know, I got here absolutely filled with self-hatred. And it really was. It was just directed at me. And who cares if a homeless person walks into a meeting? Who cares? They need help. It doesn't matter. And who cares if someone couldn't, whatever? And who cares if I have? But you know what? Today is a different life. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is living a genuine life and helping the next person.
Mhm.
You know, that's where I want to come from. And that's what I do get to live, a life of peacefulness, a life of ease, a life of happiness. And the happiness isn't, you know, the designer handbag. It just isn't. I used to think it was, absolutely. But it isn't. It is not.
Yeah, exactly. And that's who we want you to speak to because you're on the other side of it, right? We know these things. We know that that doesn't matter. And you're speaking to that. So someone else in their early recovery is going to go, wow, I was listening to a podcast and I'm a lawyer and there was a lawyer on and she told my story and I'm going to go to a meeting.
Fingers
It's
crossed.
it's going to be a full circle from when you were at your first meeting listening to a lawyer. That's why this kind of stuff to me is the most important thing. Is we are trying to talk to people of all walks of life because there is that person out there waiting to hear a story like yours, a story like mine, Heather's, Dana's. Like that is our goal, is to get these out as much as possible just to help the possible one. You know, just one person. And I've said this before in our podcast, if we help one, it is a job well done to me, like period. And so you had talked a lot about like running from things. I feel like that is, Cass, will you please get her and let her not bark? The running from we're running from all these things, and then we're running to the alcohol to run from that. And so for me, that was always the catch-all. You know what I mean? I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. And then I would go back over here unknowingly, run to the alcohol, as that was going to fix my problem, my desire, oh, that's actually not a problem. But running from equals not paying attention to, which equals an unknown of what you're willing to do. So it's just this vicious cycle that I could not get a hold of. And I, like, Heather, I would love to hear the structure, because I don't feel like I have that. But I'm happy, but I'm at peace. I can make good decisions based on good information. I can actively go and do all the things knowing that I have a clear mind with what I'm focusing on.
Right. As you were sharing, I was thinking, and it's important for someone like me to say, I don't drink at the office when we go to our big giant, holiday parties and what have you. And my partners say, well, no, I mean, you can have a celebratory drink, right? What? No, I don't drink at all. I'm going to have something non-alcoholic to drink. Really? You don't drink? No, maybe just today you're not drinking. People make a lot of excuses for the drink. And I remember being very uncomfortable saying stuff like that at the office, but it's important to include it at the office as well.
Yep.
So I try to mention that and let people know. And a lot of people think, well, you don't still need to recover, do you? Well, yes, I do. I need to recover every day. Every day. This doesn't stop. I don't drink today. That's it.
The question that I get, because I have 3 girls, is, so you're not going to do a celebratory toast at their wedding? You're not going to do, like, are you saying that you're just not going to drink? But like, what happens when your kids get married? And I was like, why is that? I'll be focused on my kids. Like, I don't need a drink in my hand to make that one of the best things that's happening in my life. And that is what alcohol has been equated to.
And we can still toast our children. It just does not need to be alcohol in the glass. I did it. I got,
and my new
daughter
thing
got
now.
married.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, please finish.
No, please. I was gonna say, I toasted my daughter. She got married during COVID, and I think she's got 3 years of marriage now with my wonderful son-in-law.
So my new thing is going to be to ask people if they would ask me the same questions if I was recovering from cocaine addiction.
Right.
Because that's the insanity of it. And I think when you reflect that back to somebody, they realize how insane it could be. Like, you're just not going to do a little bit of coke, like at your daughter's wedding, like just not a line. And like, but people, because it's so socially acceptable, but they don't realize how personal and kind of othering and what's the word I'm looking for? Degrading some of those questions are. They seem very innocent. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Renee, for sharing your story. There was a lot that I resonated with, and I'll be like Heather. I don't have children, but I resonate well with the drinking and driving that I have not really talked to anybody about, because it's so scary to think of the lives that I put in danger by drinking and driving and being on the road and having people in my car, because I hid my drunkenness well, so people didn't think I was that toasted to be able to get behind the wheel. The other thing that resonated with just what you were talking about, I work for a very big corporation, and I am doing my level best to bring in recovery friendly workplace initiatives here. And part of that is having sober events at our big global events, because like you were saying, people just keep hammering, why aren't you drinking? Why aren't you drinking? You can just have one. it makes people very uncomfortable. That we have women who are pregnant. We have the Middle East that don't drink because of religion, and you wouldn't even think twice about, bullying them into having something to drink. So stop doing it to all of these other people that are just deciding not to drink, and for whatever reason it may be. And it's so hard at the office. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because it's not easy, and the bullying is is pretty bad.
Right. And then the behaviors that go along with office drinking. Not that people are drinking in the office, but the after work gathering that's centered around drinking, or the, and it's intended to be innocent, of course, the holiday party, the celebratory party, the behaviors that go along with that. I do practice a fair amount of employment law, and alcohol seems to be tangled in quite frequently. Not to mention just the horrific accidents that can happen with alcohol. I've dealt with any number of those types of cases as well, and let alone my own brother, who I lost at the age, I was 8 years old, he was 10. It destroyed our family. And I had no idea at that point what an underage, unlicensed driver was. And God bless my parents, but they didn't really talk about it either. It just destroyed us. And that's a sad thing. So I do believe in talking about my sobriety in those contexts. I mean, I love when people go, "You're not an alcoholic. I've never even seen you drunk." Well, okay.
Then I'm
Thank
doing my
you.
job. I am recovering the way I need to. So to your point
Yes.
about the drunk driving, like, I have over the time called them God's whispers. And I was driving to the bar. There was a news update about, I lived in Jersey, how one of the housewives had been, or her husband had been arrested for a DUI. I got on the phone and I tried to call a taxi service to see if they were serving my area. This is before Uber and all of that. So I'm dating myself a little bit. I am less than a mile from my home, and I was in a head-on collision with a drunk driver who, I was supposed to have a pregnant woman with me. She canceled last minute. I T-boned this woman because she ran into a telephone pole. She failed her sobriety test because she could not stand up. And I would like to say that I stopped drinking. I would like to say that I reacted with compassion. I would like to say that I would like to say a lot of things to that woman. Actually, I would like to say I'm sorry. I went to court and I wanted her to have treatment. In New Jersey is very, very flexible for stuff like that. But I spoke my truth. She endangered me. I'm the mother of my children. I was supposed to have a pregnant woman in there. I lost all the value of my car. She rendered that entire place without electricity. It was January. There was a senior's home. There was an entire restaurant that lost power. They all lost their livelihood that night. She didn't have insurance. She was driving on a suspended license. Like, okay, so you want to talk about a God moment? God was like, you're not listening, Heather. You are not listening. So here's what's going to happen. I did drive impaired less. And I did just start to look at what was happening in my life. And it was a big wake-up call. But these are this is how for some reason, this is how I have to receive the messages, and I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to take I lost my parents, not in that way, but I lost my parents at 13 and at 15. I never want to leave anybody without a parent, but I'm acting in these ways. I don't want to leave my kids without a parent. That is my worst nightmare, but I'm regularly putting myself in danger. That's how you know that this is something that has real roots, and we need a community to help us deal with this.
And it's here for us to step into if take that moment of courage.
We get to
Yes.
recover.
Yes.
Well, Renee, I sincerely appreciate your time. And it's funny, like I come on to these episodes and I am always like, we're going to hear something fabulous today. Like it never fails. We have so many good people on here, and every episode, I'm surprised, but not surprised that it's even better than what I could have imagined. So I sincerely appreciate your time, and your willingness.
Thank you. And you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Awesome. Well, until next week, everyone knows where you can find us. We are on all of the podcast platforms. So pick what one you like most, and you can find us. Apple, we do have video. So if you want to see all of our episodes, as well as YouTube, YouTube is a very big one as well. So those are the two platforms where you can see our videos, and then all the others are just audio. So thanks for joining today, and we look forward to our next recording. Bye.
Bye.